Yes. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay, and I hope my mic is a bit better than sounding. But yes, we're back today. As people are aware, Keir Starmer has been doing some deals and handshakes with the EU, and a lot of people are thinking that we're going to be going back in the EU through the back door. I don't think we are. I just think he's trying to set up a steady relationship. And I know that Trump has put a 50% tariff on EU goods while we're at 10%. So it's good that we're not in the EU at the moment, but he's forcing them to work better with him because of these tariffs and that. But anyway, are we going back into the EU, Paul?
It's like the Hotel California. You can book in, but you can never leave. This EU, it just got a grip on us. The problem is we've never really left the EU. Take the European Court of Human Rights. Jack Straw brought that into English law, gave a precedent over English law. Now, Cameron gets elected 2010. Tories are in power for 13, 14 years, never got rid of it. The Equality Act, never got rid of it. All these quangos like the Office of Budget Responsibility and English Nature, basically running most of our institutions now. Never got rid of them. You see, the EU, what the EU is really about is depriving the British people of control of their own country. And we're being dictated to by foreign courts, foreign institutions, and we're subservient to this idea of universal rights. Everyone around the world has got a universal right. And it seems one of those rights is to come into our country, plug into our benefit system, take our social housing, and get their kids into our education system. And we are obliged to pay for it all. And this is what the EU is about. It's about destroying the nation state, taking democracy away from the British people. Keir Starmer, he's a continuation of Tony Blair. And this is the problem with the Tories. They never overcome any of these things which were built in to stop the British people exerting their rights. Now, Keir Starmer has just got what he called a reset with the EU. He's given away our fisheries again, just as the French are arresting British trawlermen. We're allowing the French to come and basically pillage our fisheries. The farming we're now paying back into all sorts of things now, and we're going to, have what they call harmonise our laws with the EU laws. But the EU laws are not made by democratically elected politicians. They're made by bureaucrats. This is the rule of bureaucracies. It's against the people. It's against populism. It's all come since the Second World War. It's just got worse and worse. And Keir Starmer, he believes in all this rule by law, human rights laws, and this laws and that laws. And basically, the politicians can't do anything. I mean, you try and deport someone from this country now, you come across all these human rights laws, He could have a human right. He's got a dog and he doesn't want to leave his dog, and his dog would be distressed if he's sent back to Bangladesh or something. So he stays in this country. It's absolutely absurd. The judges are being given too much power. You got the Supreme Court. Tony Blair structured everything so that power went away from the politicians, goes into these courts, goes into these globalist institutions. Now, 10 years ago, 2015, a certain Donald J. Trump came down the elevator in the Trump Tower in New York, and he said, I'm putting the people back in charge. Forget all these judges and bureaucracies and people who are anti-American. It's the same in this country. Judges, bureaucracies, anti-British. They want to control us, and they want to take our country off us completely. They've taken a lot of it off us already. They want to take the rest. And this is the thing with Keir Starmer. The Tories were in on it. The Tories never had the balls to leave the European Court of Human Rights. Never had the balls to leave the United Nations Refugee Convention. They bowed down to these things. They never overturned the Equality Act, the Tories, which was about disempowering the British people. The Tories never did anything. They threatened to. I mean, we gave Boris a huge majority in 2019 to regain our sovereignty, to give the British people power in their own country again. He never used it. He never used it. Instead, he gave power to SAGE, which was the COVID committee. And they shut down our economy, bankrupted the country, stopped our kids getting education, forced a lot of people to have the vax. I never had the vax, but, and for this bogus COVID, which was really only a flu, that's all it was. It was no dangerous than an ordinary flu. It was all bogus. And so we got Keir Starmer back. The Tories allowed him to win this election. I mean, they made themselves unelectable with Sunak. Nobody wanted Starmer. He got a low vote. He got 34%. In a normal election, he wouldn't get nowhere. But he's back in power, and he's given power back to the European Union all the time. Forget the economic things. Forget the tariffs. This is about giving our sovereignty back to Brussels, giving our sovereignty back to the European Commission, taking power away from the British people. Now, if Reform get in at the next election, they're going to need a big majority, because they're going to have to get us out to the European Court of Human Rights. They're going to have to break the power that these globalist institutions still have over Britain. That'll be one hell of a fight, because the vested interests, the judiciary, the House of Lords, the bureaucracies, they'll try and stop them at every turn. This is why the British people have got to wake up. But the problem is, we're virtually bankrupt as a nation. And it's not going to look too pretty going back into the European Union, because the European Union's a mess as well. Stuart.
Well, good evening, everybody. I don't know if you're all as disillusioned as I am. If you look back at history, the thought and creation of a European Union was from Adolf Hitler. So what we have now is what Hitler envisioned, which is a bureaucratic state. It may not be what he envisioned, the direction that it's got in, but he envisioned a whole European state that had an unelected, bureaucratic, because bureaucrats and experts were better than politicians in his mind. That's what we have now, and it's been a slow, steady progress throughout history to bring us to this moment. And if we go to Tony Blair, let's maybe compare him to Barack Obama. So Obama has 2 terms. Then we now really know that Biden was not the real president. There was unelected bureaucrats, and there was somebody running it in the background. Obama had an interview where he calmly said he would love a 3rd term, but only if he could sit in his basement in like his man's cave, in his joggers, with an earpiece and run it. What we've had now is set the foundation by Blair. I believe Blairite was the first true UK globalist. In my opinion, he never really left office. He's always been there. He's pushed that vaccine passport, the digital ID, and ever. We know that Starmer is a globalist puppet. He'll do whatever Trump tells him to do. He'll do whatever Europe tells him to do. And I do believe that we've got China's fingers.
There's a conflict there, Stuart. There's a conflict. I mean, if he does what Trump tells him to do, it won't be the same as what the EU tell him. He's going to have to decide where he belongs, who he's going to listen to.
We've signed up for these, signed up with deals with America and Trump, but we've also got a 100-year deal with Ukraine. They've been saying that Europe and us should gear up for a 20-year war economy. And that's what they're basing their for financial statistics on. And that's what the Office for Budget Responsibility, in my mind, would be somebody who's sitting there going, no, I don't want money going here, there and everywhere. I want it spent at home. No. The Office of Budget Responsibility looks at what the government's aims are and if the finances are planned properly to get to that end. It's not that the Office of Budget Responsibility is responsible for the British people. They are there as part of the bureaucracy and the swamp that's connected to the EU, which over in America, you've got Trump trying to get out. You know, so although on one hand, we've got Starmer going, oh yeah, we got free speech. We're proud of it, Mr. President, and I'll sign up to anything you want. On the other hand, like you say, yes, we've got that conflict of interest where we've got a prime minister that's flip-flopping. On the one side, you've got money coming from one area of the world, and you've also got money coming from another area of the world, which is pushing and squashing his party. And they are both from two religions that are not part of this country. We are a Christian country and we're being crushed. And Starmer, as I think deals have been done, BlackRock, we know that BlackRock and Bill Gates had a very secretive meeting. I think it was just before Trump got in. So the plans were laid there financially. We know that 10% of the farmland's going to solar or to leaving it wild. Whilst we've got BlackRock and Gates wanting to vaccinate not only us, but our food via animals and grown food, which is patented. So you've got this whole globalist network. And I believe that Starmer is a globalist puppet. I also believe he is the number one traitor that we see in this country. He could shut the borders just by getting people sent back, dump them back in France. Yes, okay, we might have lefty lawyers and all of this. I'd shut them down. The whole lot of them, the whole lot of the lefty side. And you have to remember that Starmer was a human rights lawyer.
Yeah, it's rule by lawyers. But the thing is, there is these overarching agendas which you've mentioned there. The war being especially salient because the EU has now become like a warlike structure. Its main focus seems to be to break up Russia. They want us to engage in a war with Russia. Starmer's going along with that. You got other like supranational agendas like global warming. We've already given, I think it's 30 billion to carbon capture. It's absolute nonsense, this net zero agenda. It's costing us a fortune. The thing is, the only thing that's pulling Keir Starmer back is the rise of reform, because the Tories are not holding him to account on these issues and won't. The truth is that David Cameron turned the Tories into a globalist party. I mean, you said Blair was the first globalist prime minister. Brown, of course, was just the same. Cameron was the same. Theresa May was the worst of them all. She signed up for every lunatic agenda under the sun, including the Marrakesh Agreement to open our borders, including all this transgender nonsense. Theresa May signed up for all this, and of course climate. You know, this is one of the big hoaxes, the climate, isn't it? We've all got to get into this climate agenda. I mean, Trump's pulled the rug on that. But they're gung-ho for this war with Ukraine. And Starmer's embroiling us in the military structures of Europe. He's helping to finance it. He wants a joint army with Macron. You know, we've got to get this guy out because he's our enemy. He's going to destroy this country, and he's still got 4 years to go. The only hope is that we can really mobilize the democratic voice of this country to bring him down a lot quicker. But of course, as I said earlier, he's not in a good financial position. We're having to pay over 100 billion a year now in interest, just on interest on our loans. Never mind pay the loans back. We're heavily in debt in this country, and the money isn't there to spare. That's why I think with Farage, he's doing this thing with the welfare state. He's defending the welfare state. That forces the Labour Party to maintain its obligations, but it's putting them in a financial squeeze. It's pulling them under real pressure, and I think that's very effective. John?
Yeah, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Stuart. No, I agree with a few of them things. I mean, the EU, they want that war with Russia, and nothing's going to stop them. And I mean, when the Russian Federation broke up, there was like unofficial agreements that NATO wouldn't move to the borders. And since then, they've moved to the borders and they're surrounding the beast. You know, I never talked about Russia. I had nothing to do with Russia, me. Russia was irrelevant, but it is relevant now. And everyone's painting them out to be an enemy. But like I said, the EU, NATO, they just want to encroach on Russia's borders. And it's going to cause trouble for us all. Like you said already, they want to increase our armed forces and sort of like put us on alert. Friendly bouncer in the chat. Why should we go to war again? We shouldn't be. Friendly bouncer, not this kind of war anyway. And, you know, even though we're not in the EU are going to get everything they can out of us with deals and stuff like that. The ECHI is not directly to do with the EU. It was made to encompass like just like Europe, but that's been incorporated into like EU and stuff like that, and it's stopping horrible people being sent out of this country. You just couldn't make it up. There is no sovereignty for the UK at the moment. That there really isn't, even though we have unofficially left. But we never left, like Paul said at the beginning, and a lot of people will agree with this. We never really fully left the EU. We never did. I've just got to be AFK a minute, guys, but if you want to carry on, I will be back.
The big issue, I mean, getting back to this war agenda, that's been sort of pushed to the margin a bit at the moment. But war is very expensive. We've got Zelensky right in the Ukraine. He won't have an election. He's gone well past his presidential term. He's crushed any opposition. He runs the state like a dictator. I mean, no one wants to fight the Ukrainian army. They're all conscripted now. You've seen them, Stuart, getting grabbed off the streets, and they don't want to fight. They want to get out the country. The Ukrainian people want peace. They want a peace agreement. But the EU will not allow that because their goal in this war, right from the off, was to break up Russia. For them, Russia's too big and they want access. You see, John said the Russian Federation, it was the Soviet Union that was broken up. They fear, the European Union fear the Soviet Union getting powerful again and imposing itself, especially on the Baltic states and into Romania. Now, for me, the EU has become an almost totalitarian bloc. You can see that the way it's interfering in elections. In Romania, it actually cancelled the election because they knew they were going to lose. And they sort of manipulated the election so that their guy won in the end. But we've seen it in France now. They've outlawed Marine Le Pen. Just said she can't stand.
Yeah.
And they're doing this in country after country. Any people who oppose them, they're moving in. I mean, you see with the AfD in Germany, they put the German intelligence, the German secret police, on top of the AfD to control them from within now. It's totally entered, and they're trying to make them illegal. It's the use of the state. They call it a limitation on democracy, but basically, you can have any form of democracy you want, as long as you agree with the European bureaucrats. This is the problem with the EU. It's not a democratic structure. Never was. The people who run it, you just can't get rid of them. They're not elected. These commissioners, we don't know who they are, and they make all the decisions. So, I mean, but the thing is, Keir Starmer is fundamentally anti-democratic. He doesn't trust the British people. I mean, you can see that in Southport straight away. He wanted to label people far right. And yet the police have said that the demonstrators in Southport were just the people of Southport. There was no organisation behind it. But he wanted... Go on,
sorry,
Stuart.
While we're talking, Paul, I hope you don't mind me broaching this subject. I know I'm a Southerner, but I've been a Liverpool supporter since I was 5. I've celebrated Sunday and Monday, and then I see the horrific various angles of videos of a car that shouldn't have been there and hurt people, drove over people. If it's sensitive subject, I don't know if you've got anybody close near there. I understand if you don't want to talk about it or anything. But
No, feel free, Stuart, feel free.
I was just wondering your feelings on it, because now we know for the last 5, 6 or more years, when you don't get a description of a possible perpetrator of a robbery, say, you know, years ago as Crime Watch, and you'd get a crime fit, whatever colour, creed or anything, but the last 5 years they've hidden that fact, like they did at Southport, because they thought hiding it was better than just being out and truthful. So what I've seen at Liverpool is, you know, very, very quickly the police come out, and I understand you want to quell any scepticism on who that person was, but they've come out and said it was a 53-year-old man that was a driver. I have seen 1, 2, 3 videos, maybe even 4, that are not fuzzy. And I've got to say, I'm 57. If I looked that good at 53, I'd be going out with a 30-year-old film star. Do you know what I mean? He was rather young looking.
Stuart, that was the co-driver. That was the co-driver. He was on the right hand of the car. The driver, of course, was on the left side.
Well, it was a left-hand-sided drive. The left-hand-sided or left-sided drive. Foreign.
Yeah. Well, the guy. I mean, there was an altercation.
Well, it's in my head. It was an English number plate, so I took it to be a right-hand drive, as our cars are. I've seen the person getting in the car, and he looked much younger. So I'm not saying it wasn't a left-hand drive car, because you can get them on English registry. But I thought I saw a steering wheel, the door was open, 2 or 3 different angles he gets in, and then the incident happens. There's that he didn't look 53, may or may have not been white. And the other thing that really got me was I've seen videos through the smoke from a rooftop to another rooftop over the incident where there's a sniper. Were they expecting something to happen, do you think, Paul? I'm just speculating. I mean, I hold my hands up. Maybe the driver was 53, totally white, English, who knows? I don't think it's been fully released yet, exactly.
Well, I speculated like you, Stuart. You can just put yours on mute a second, Stu. I speculated like you.
And do you think it could be a false flag?
Well, I mean, there was people there who've spoken to. Angie was there from the Wirral. Well, she had information. Who said there was an altercation before he got in the car. The guy, the driver, was high on drink and drugs, and he just wanted to get out of there. And he did actually stop the car very abruptly. If it had been like a jihadi or something, he wouldn't have done that. It could have been a lot worse, that accident, if he'd have carried on ploughing into that crowd. But I think it was local people, and I think it was an altercation. And he was lucky to get out of that alive, because the mob would have ripped him to pieces if the police had to defend him. But I just think it was a bad incident, to be honest, Stuart. John, what do you?
Yeah, I think it was a bad incident as well, Paul. Apparently, the roads weren't closed off properly, and there were other cars that came up to the crowd. But when he come up to the crowd, and I've seen several videos and stuff like that, they started to bang on the car, and someone smashed his rear light, and then he's gone forward trying to get away from it. Just one of them things. And I don't doubt there would be police marksmen, because unfortunately Liverpool's had several high-profile attacks in Liverpool. The hospital thing the other week. So that's why I think they might have been there. So it's one of them things. But I don't think we have to run into it's a red flag or anything. The guy certainly looks white. Whether he's 50 years old, I don't know. I'm 58 this year, and no one believes that I'm 58. They always say I'm younger, so I'm just saying. But I haven't really said much about this because I don't want to get arrested. And there's people still
What, for lying about how young you look?
there's people still saying that it's an Islamic attack. It isn't. There's many people on the ground now that have come out who were there who said, like, what happened? The car just went down the wrong road. Lots of people were saying the roads weren't closed off properly, and other people in other cars had come up to the procession, and obviously turned onto the main road. And the bit I get is that he got attacked straight. The car got attacked straight away. Tried to get away, and that's what happened. But I'm not putting it down or anything. I just think it was a really unfortunate incident, and they'll have to look more, the police, at how they block the roads and they cut off the roads and stuff like that. But it's definitely not any kind of red flag or a terror attack, and I'm absolutely sure of that. And obviously, it was in Liverpool where, it was in Southport where Rudy did his job, and because of the government not saying nothing straight away, everyone rioted. So I think it was good that they've come out and said who this guy is, and that should keep most of the people quelled down now. Obviously, there'll be an investigation going on to it, and I'm sure they're not going to cover anything up because it's just not that kind of thing. But yeah, it is pretty bad. But I just want to get back to I'm going to go back to the EU. And I'm going to go back. Now, I wonder what, I've never heard of this, but I wonder how the media organisations within the EU work, and who tells them what they can't say and what they can say. Is it their government? Is it like an EU person? Are the individual media organisations who cover things up? But I'm guessing a lot of the media organisations in Europe will be heavily influenced by European things. That's what I think. I can't give you more than that, but that's what I'm like.
I think with the media, John, that in the EU, it's a bit like what's happening in Canada and what was happening with USAID in America. The EU governments manipulate them through money, through putting advertisements in their papers, by helping to finance their programs, and they bought them, really. I mean, we grew up in a society where the media was supposed to be the tribune of the people. It was supposed to speak to the people, speak truth to power, represent the will of the people. The media now just manipulates the public. It's the plaything of the elites. This is getting back to the EU, because there's another big issue in the EU which we haven't really covered, which is immigration. Starmer has made all sorts of concessions to Europe now about who can come to Britain, who can settle in Britain. It was all done in the sense to say that, you know, to allow the free flow of the British back into Europe, allow young people to go and stay and work and study in Europe. But it's actually opened the floodgates again. People have said this disagreement he's got with the EU will allow millions of more people to come into Britain. And this is the thing with Starmer. It's about getting rid of our borders. This is the attack on the nation state. It's the creation of a borderless world. This is why these human rights lawyers work across borders. The European Court of Human Rights, it doesn't acknowledge any national borders. And you get all this United Nations stuff about universal rights, United Nations Refugee Convention. And when you look at the United Nations, the people who are running these institutions, they tend to come from dictatorships. So you can end up with someone from North Korea being in charge of human rights, international human rights, because there is no international human rights. Every nation has a different approach. For example, in the Islamic world, Christians have very few rights. Non-Muslims have very few rights in the Islamic world, and the United Nations accept that. Of course, in China, doesn't respect liberty at all. And it's the same in so many regimes across Africa and Asia and even Latin America that are very strict, they're strong control by the state. There's no real democracy. And of course, we have our own traditions, English common law, and that's all being overridden now by these bogus human rights laws. And it's Starmer loves this, because this is like a field day for all the lawyers. As Stuart said earlier, he's an ex-human rights lawyer. This is their game. And it's weird. This is how they make their money in all these stupid human rights cases. But it's about stripping away our power to control our borders. And we've got an immigration crisis in this country. And it's not going to be solved by inviting even more people in. It's not going to be solved by conceding even more sovereignty to these globalist institutions. We've got an emergency on because we haven't got the living space. We don't need these people that are burden on us en masse. I mean, I sort of figured that 1 million immigrants are now living directly on unemployment benefit. So they're basically coming to Britain to just live off us. We feed, they breed. They're given accommodation. They're giving our money to buy their food and to grow their families. I've got a friend who's homeless, and he went to homeless at a hotel in Liverpool. I said it was just full of Africans with like big families. And he said they went down to breakfast in the morning and they were just eating as much as they could, you know. And I just thought that's it, isn't it? That's what's happening in this country. We're feeding the world, we're housing the world, and we haven't got the money anymore. And we're just taxing the ordinary British people. And we're losing our nation. We're paying for our nation to disappear. I mean, we're losing our green spaces. The population's exploding. And the population's being transformed day by day. I mean, basically, we're becoming an Asian and African country. We're going to cease to be Britain altogether. And this is another attack on democracy in this country. This means that the British people, lose their control over this country. It's so many angles. And Keir Starmer is just basically a traitor. The issue is, what are we going to do about it? Stuart?
Well, it's about time. I mean, I'm in my 50s, guys. I've never been political. I've got a family. I've worked, I've paid into the system and everything like that. What they're bringing in haven't paid into the system. What they're bringing in comes from a totally different culture. And I am sick to death of the isms and the labels and this and that. It is not racist to be nationalist, to want borders, to want security for the people that live here and pay in. Now, you talked about inflation. Not only do we have rampant inflation, we have companies, corporations that we are subsidizing to give us green energy back to us, selling it back to us. So we're paying for it in the first place. We're paying China and Norway for either windmills, solar panels, or as Norway, we're buying gas from Norway, which comes from where? It comes from the North Sea. So we are shipping, for example, gas at 40% over what we could produce it for in the North Sea. But no, Labour stopping the drilling. They even want to stop the capacity for oil refinery. We have, as it is, a very, very dwindling industries. We were the industrial revolution of the world. What has happened? Like America, where their industry went to China and India, guess what? So's ours. So's ours. They're building coal-fired plants here, there, and everywhere. We're sitting on a century's worth of coal. A whole lifetime of oil and gas in the North Sea, which will never run out because it refills after a certain number of years. And that's known science. But getting back to the subject, all of that, it's not only the prices in the shops, it's the prices of the fuel. So what Trump has done, his fuel prices have dropped down because they're drilling, baby drilling. We should be doing the same. We need to close our borders, get rid of the 6,000 laws that still hook us in to the European Union, which is globalist communism, you know, linked to China. Where does all the surveillance cameras come from? All the facial recognition cameras come from? Where are all the screens? When you go into a supermarket now, you're on camera straight away. You're standing at a self-service till, putting people out of work, and you're on a screen. You're being watched everywhere you go, and it's only going to get worse. Who paid for this? The taxpayer. Successive governments have signed us up to, Parliament's a sham. Whoever's in charge has signed us up to a full globalist authoritarian state.
The thing is, though, Stuart, the thing is, Starmer now has decided to change track, hasn't he, in his rhetoric. He's now talking about controlling the borders again. He's now talking about putting Britain first. Now, he's only done that, obviously, because of what happened on May the 1st. May the 1st was a political revolution. Labour's vote collapsed, the Tory vote collapsed, and Reform are riding high in the polls. Now, the question is, can Reform win the election, and can they make a difference? And what is our role in the way the future of Britain's going to be shaped? How are we going to win our independence? John, any ideas on that?
First of all, just want to go back to it is sorry, John Skidmore has put that in about Gemma Doherty and a video, and I've looked at the video. She says it's a dummy, and an orange hand come out. She said it's Masonic orange, and that means that I'm just not going down that conspiracy route, mate. Just because they show a colour on screen doesn't mean there's some nefarious thing. And I don't believe that body was a dummy. I don't believe it. There's hundreds of people there, and they're Scousers. And Scousers are not sheep easily. They are not sheep easily. And if you know anything about Liverpool and the things they've been through in the past, you know that this is true. So I don't believe it's a psyop or whatever. I don't believe that. I just think it's a genuine accident. You know what we're going to have to do with the EU? We're really going to have to stay away from them and cut our ties. I think we should believe in the ECHR and any other kind of European thing that's been made in law. We should leave it all. We had good enough laws for every individual in this country, no matter what race, religion, ethnicity, already before we went into the ECHR and the EC whatever. Before we went into all these, we had our own rules and law, and British law and democracy and things like that is the best in the world, and everyone uses it. We already had them specific things for individuals, no matter what race, religion. We didn't need any more kind of laws. Them laws are just stopping us deporting nasty people and stopping us, like, saying that we can't have these nasty people in our country. But then obviously when they want to pick somebody, they don't want to come in, they do. But we have 8 preachers all the time here who are banned in Middle Eastern countries from speaking, but they're allowed to speak over here. It's just madness. We do really need to look at our relationship with the European Union. Now, I don't mean that we should just blank them and everything. There's got to be some things that we've got to do together. I think security is a big thing. So if there's like an extremist making his way from one side of Europe to the other, the security forces need to know. They need to know that, and that's separate. It's not EU business, but we need to look at that. And our power, I've heard you going on about power. I'm just like ready to start digging for coal, me, and getting our own oil back. We have got infrastructure already in place to support digging up coal and doing oil. We've got that infrastructure really already. Won't need much, and that's what we should be doing. We can work on clean energy if you want, but we shouldn't be running out of power. We shouldn't have any power strikes or anything like that. And we've been warned that these are going to happen over the next 2 years because of that net zero, absolute strangle rubbish that they're putting on us. But yeah, you know, we need to definitely look into our relationship with the European Union. That's what we're looking into. And we're not going to get that with Labour. We're not going to get that with Tories. Whether we get it with Reform, whoever comes in, or a coalition, I don't know. But we really do need to look at our relationship with the EU.
There was another aspect there, John, that I wanted to talk about, is our bureaucracy. Somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier. Our bureaucrats think they run this country. They've been empowered. I mean, that's where you see the Equality Act. I mean, they've been taken over. A lot of them are Asians now. They think they run this country, and they're linked in with the European Brussels bureaucrats, and they block any measures that the government do to try and, you know, if we ever try to reassert our sovereignty. This is the issue. Even if Reform get in, even if they have an agenda to bring back the nation state and sort of free us from these globalist institutions and international courts and be able to make our own laws again, maybe hook up with America again. If they try and do that, the bureaucrats will attempt to strangle it at birth. This is why they're going to need a clear majority in the parliament, because I think the only way they could overcome these bureaucracies is if they have the votes in parliament to actually change the laws. Stuart, how do you see that going with the international bureaucracies and the bureaucracy in this country, the civil service?
I certainly think behind the scenes, as Trump called it, the swamp. And at the moment, I do believe he's doing his best as he can. He's up against it, but he's doing the best he can to clear out the swamp. Now, I believe our bureaucracy, America's was, you only have to look at the BlackRock connection, all the major powers in the world, I believe are connected. The bigger bureaucracy, the swamp. So we as a country, I believe we need to clear out our own swamp. Clarkson put it very well at one of the farmers' protests. He said something like there's over 50,000 bureaucrats. He said, walk into any one of these buildings around Westminster, and if they can't explain what they do and what it does for the British people, op it. Seriously, op it. We don't need all these bureaucrats. We don't. And I do believe that there should be no dual nationalship whatsoever. No dual passports, nothing. You choose one or the other. I believe in Britain first, and I believe in Britain second and third. That's the way it should be. It should be this country first. I also believe that I don't know Keir Starmer's religion. I don't believe he has any religion. And without religion or a religious basis and foundation, you grow up without those base central morals that are taught by your parents and the influences that you get from going to a place of worship that is a proper place of worship, one that has not been polluted, corrupted. So we've got a religious system in this country that is corrupted, whether it's Christian or Muslim. Both have priests or imams that either talk evil or are evil.
Well, you've opened up there, Stuart. You've opened up a whole new agenda which relates to the EU, which is the woke agenda. The EU have been imposing this upon us. Things like gay marriage, transgender rights, all the agendas.
The LGBTQ plus bloody priests.
Yeah,
you had a pope that loved them.
Yeah, the EU have been behind all these agendas and breaking up the family, pushing abortion, pushing easy divorce, stopping any real punishment of crime. It just goes on, and they've got control of education. They get, as John said earlier, they get control of the media. I mean, if you stand up in the media for traditional values, or you stand up in the media for Christian values, you'll be pushed aside very quickly. You've got to push this woke agenda all this time, this degenerate sort of set of ideas. And it's all about creating a sterile society, a society which is dependent on the state, society, and again, the great replacement. These immigrants are not coming in just to gain access to our resources and to sort of, if you like, colonize our welfare state and our societies. They're coming to replace us. This is an agenda to destroy the European people. And it's called a Kalergi plan, but this has been in place since the founding of the European Union. And Keir Starmer is totally signed up to that. These people, they're not just like looking after their own interests. They are dangerous, sinister people who actually want to destroy our way of life. They're a danger to every one of us. And as long as the likes of Keir Starmer remain in power in this country, things will get worse and worse. We're heading towards bankruptcy. We're overpopulated. We're heading towards all sorts of problems in this country. People have lost their optimism for the future. The only way we regain that is by having a populist party in power. Now, the National Housing Party, our policies are what is required for this country. But of course, we're a small party and we're not going to compete in the general election. Reform are. We have to influence the agenda. We have to make sure the agenda moves in our direction. This is our role. And because we're prepared to speak courageously, to speak openly, whereas everybody else is playing a game, they've got to play cagey. But we've got to challenge the status quo. You talk about the Overton window, what is allowed to be debated. We've got to keep pushing it in our direction so that we actually have policies in place which can protect this country, protect all the people of this country, and give us a future. And that's why we exist as a party. That's our agenda. And that's why we've got to resist Keir Starmer at every turn. John?
Yeah, we have. We've definitely got to resist him. Please, everyone, like and subscribe to the channel. Follow the descriptions. Look at everything in it. I think next week I've really got a rut on over how men are treated, and next week we're going to talk about that in next week's stream. I really have. It's boiling my blood. The ignorance of some people. I'll just give you a bit of a rundown. So we've had a meeting last week in Oldham Council, and 50 years ago, there was a gentleman's agreement between Labour, Lib Dem and Tory that each year they would pick, each particular party would pick the deputy mayor. And they've an independent has took the deputy mayor position. And then Arut Shah said on a speech, she said, I wasn't here 50 years ago, but we need to look at that. Gentlemen shouldn't be making an agreement. The thicko don't even know what it means. And it was up to, so I did a bit of a video about it. And she's obviously thinking that men made this agreement, but that's not what a gentleman's agreement means. It means two parties have agreed on something that's not verbal or oral. And I'm sick of the way that these women talk about men. I am sick of it. And I come from my family, my mum and dad, 7 sisters, me. I'm the only son. So don't think that I haven't lived a life growing up with women, but I'm sick of this. Women have got to be the victims all the time and men have got to be evil. And somebody in the council, a woman in the council also said, why are men speaking about this? Shouldn't women be, shouldn't women? And this, my answer to that was that about a dozen of these girls who've suffered from child sexual exploitation and various families have contacted me. I never asked them to, because they just don't believe the counsellors and stuff like that. So next week's show is going to be about the how men are put on the back foot, how men are evil in everything they do and stuff like that. We're going to talk about it because it's really boiled my blood. But you know, the big thing about that interview,
it's a term they use, masculinity.
Yeah, we really need to really look into our relationship with the EU. That's what we need to do. That's the first big thing that I would do if I was in charge of the country. And we talked about a lot of things that they do in the media, how they control things. We've talked about it, but we need to look into our relationship with the EU.
You know what I wanted to say there, John? You were talking about the relationship of men to women. Cultural Marxism, and this ideology, this woke ideology, intersectionality they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
It's about setting everyone against each other. You know, the idea, why should black and white fight? There's no need. Why should Muslim and Christian fight? There's no need. Why should men and women fight? There's no need. Why are we being set against each other all the time? This is another way they seek to control us. And this is another way they have to put down the British people. But, you know, all this conflict, this is like a Marxist idea. It used to be the workers against the bosses, didn't it? They call it the dialectic. Everything is one side against another. So women are like told that men have oppressed them, as you said yourself, John. They're taught to think of themselves as a victim. Like black people are taught to think of themselves as victims. You know, so and they need a villain. Who's the villain? Normally the white male, but any male. It can be any man. You know, there's an anti-masculine thing there. There's an anti-European, anti-white. These are ideologies which have taken control of our education, taking control of our government and our courts. They call it the empowerment of minorities, the rule of the minorities. But women are not a minority, but it sets them up against men. It's all about conflict in society, taking harmony out of society. We don't have to live like that. We don't have to live in this constant battle. We can have a harmonious society. This is what Christianity always taught us. You know, I mean, Jesus said, love your enemy. He went right across and said, look, let's stop all this bitterness and all this hatred. But these people are generating it all the time. This is why I describe these people as sinister. This woke agenda is sinister. It's about setting people against each other. So ultimately, the elite control us, and they use these agendas to put us down and to stop us asserting ourselves. But we've got to assert ourselves because they've done a lot of damage and we haven't got much longer to go. I think we're at the tipping point. We've got to go back to traditional values, to traditional society, the way we were. Some people say, we can't go back, that's gone. But it's not. If you've got faith, if you've got a strong identity, as we once did as a nation, and our nation was in Christ, it was in our nationhood, it was in our culture. If you've got a strong identity, you have the confidence to reassert yourself and re-establish the decent things in this society. One of the reasons we're motivated by this is we know that Britain was a decent society. Our laws were good laws, as you said earlier, John. Our laws worked. We had the best police in the world. We have the only police force. I mean, you can see that in Liverpool yesterday that doesn't carry weapons. If that had been in France and Germany and the crowd had attacked the police, they may well have opened up with weapons. But we had consent in our society. The people felt involved in making the choice of, in the government and the making of the laws in this society. It's the EU. Everything's done remote. Everything's done by an elite. Everything's done by people who are not serving our interests and are not accountable to us. Everything's been lost and we've got to regain it. Keir Starmer is our worst enemy. He's got to be replaced. Hopefully we can get a government in power soon. And the rise of reform is reawakening the British line. But the National Housing Party, we have the answer to this. We have the right policies. And ultimately, people are going to have to listen to us because this is the only solution. Stuart.
I concur with every single word you said there, Paul. You're such a great speaker. You put it together a lot better than I could ever. The only thing that we've missed out tonight is please support us. We need leaflets. We need to get the message out there. Share us. Get the word out there. Have a look at our website. Have a look at our policies. It's very sensible, common sense, British first policies. Have a look. See if you can come up with any better. See if you can improve them. See if you can add to them. We are a little party, but we are growing, and we are growing quickly, and we will get in at lower levels. By getting in at lower levels, we get a movement going. It's like dropping a pebble in a pond. That ripple spreads out. So please support us if you can. Like and share and subscribe. Come and join us. Get in touch with us. John, over to you. Thank you, Paul.
You're on mute, John. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you for them comments, John Skidmore. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you for interacting with us. But like I said, it's about men next week. I'm really, blood is really boiling and I need to calm down. But that's what we're going to talk about. But, there we go. My thing is we need to really look at our relationship with the European Union. That's what we really need to do. Starmer and all them, even though they might not be taking us back, they just want to lick up their asses, and I just don't want to do that, mate. I really don't. It's gonna cause problems with us forever if we're gonna be like that. We need politicians who've got morals and who've got a proper spine. That's what we need. But thank you very much, everyone. Don't forget what Stuart said. There's a PayPal link there if you want to put some money in for leaflets. Next year is going to be, next May is busy. So we're going to be pushing that we want funding and we want some leaflets for next year. But I've got a campaign. Pat's got a camp. We've got several campaigns next year, and they're going to be good campaigns, and we're going to get a good stock of votes. But thank you very much. Thank you to my guests, Paul and Stuart. Thank you to everyone in the chat, and we'll see you next week. God bless everyone.
Good night, folks. Thank you.